All right, it's working. I tried to use Audio Hijack last night to record a concert using screens on my iPad mini to get everything set up, and it didn't work. And it didn't have anything to do with the software. I actually got it all going and everything, but for whatever reason the streamed video didn't start. And so the next morning I was able to get up, which was this morning. I was able to get up and just download the video anyway because it was like on Vimeo or something like that. So I don't know what I was doing, fiddling around with my iPad mini late last night.
So I think it was last episode I said about how I'd sold my PS4 and I was like, I can hold out, it's fine.
Sure you can.
I did not last that long. Like 2 days after we recorded, I messaged my friend who I work with who bought a PS4 a couple of years ago on the Prime Day sale.
Uh-huh.
And I know that they weren't using it, so I was like, can I borrow your PS4 for a few months? So I now have a PS4 again.
That's good.
And I've been playing Fall Guys, which even if you've not played it, I assume you've probably seen stuff online about this game.
Yeah, I'm well aware of it, and we have it downloaded. I just haven't played it. My son's played it, and he likes it a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you know they've got a new update coming out. I don't know, in a month's time or something with new levels and stuff. Because after you've played it for a few hours, like you are just playing the same like 7 or 8 levels, but it is just ridiculous amount of fun. Like you just play these little beans and you just jump around and try and get to the end of the level. Sort of, I guess it's like a Total Wipeout. Do you have that in the US?
Yeah, I think so, or something like that. I know what you're talking about. I mean, it's a battle royale game without the shooting and killing, basically, right? I mean, it's an obstacle course that you have to be the last person standing, right?
Right, exactly. So yeah, it's it's just kind of a lot of fun, and it was given away with PlayStation Plus, so I think like
that's why we have it.
That's a good way to get a lot of people to play a game.
Yes, very quickly.
Yeah, they've had some server issues. I tried to play the other night, and I just couldn't even finish a game because I just kept getting cut off. But yeah, this is fun.
It's a pretty small development shop that made it, and it was published by Devolver, which is like a Texas-based, kind of indie developer game shop in the U.S. And I had seen news that this was coming for quite a while, and it's amazing how quickly it's taken off. I'm not surprised, I guess, that they're having some issues. There's been a lot of clamoring for it to come to the Xbox and the Switch. And what they've said so far, I think, is we're going to concentrate on getting the base game right before we do that, which makes sense to me. I mean, obviously if they're having underlying server issues, they got to deal with that and levels and seasons and all that kind of stuff that they want to do. But I really do hope that this comes to the Switch. I haven't played it yet, but it strikes me as the kind of game that would work pretty well on the Switch, especially in handheld mode.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it's just like one of the, you pick it up and play for, well, depending on how good you are, maybe up to 15 minutes if you can sort of get to the end,
Right.
The final round, which I've only done twice, but, twice is fine, I can live with that. Maybe I'm thinking about just retiring now, because I've won a couple of times. I think that's enough for me.
I've read that there are some people who just try to spoil the fun by doing something stupid, like hanging out near the exit or the final destination or whatever it happens to be, and screwing around with people.
Yeah, that's totally a thing that people do.
I was wondering if you'd seen that.
Yeah, for the most part, it's fine because it's not really a contact game. Like you can grab people, which will slow them down. For the most part, if you're quick enough, you can avoid these idiots who wait at the finish line for no reason.
Right, and just try to drag someone backwards or whatever it happens to be. Yeah,
exactly.
I've got to play it. I mean, I have a. It's one of those games that I'm afraid that if I do play it now, that might distract me too much from stuff I've got going on with work, which is a lot right now. So I'm staying away from that one for now. But I'll try it at some point, maybe in October.
Yeah, it's like I say, because it's quite quick, and especially your first few games, if you're anything like me, it will be, 2 minutes, you'll be done. Because once you get knocked out of a round, that's the end of it, and you have to restart a new, I don't know what they call it, a round, a match, something like that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I've been playing old video games, which is a lot of fun. I've been playing Paper Mario still, which we already talked about, but, and just kind of working my way through that slowly but surely. But I have been, I don't know. I got out the 3DS the other day, and I you know what prompted it, I guess, was that I saw a deal on Amazon for Ocarina of Time on the 3DS for $15, which you can get it on the Virtual Console for like $20, I think. So it's, I mean, it's not like an expensive game anyway, but $15 seemed like a good deal. So I was like, all right, I'll get that, and I got it. And it came, and I started playing it, and I was really enjoying it. And then I kind of found my Link's Awakening. That I had that also downloaded from the Virtual Console, and I was looking around in there and in the eShop, and I found some more games, and I don't know. I've just been fiddling around with some of these old Game Boy games and some 3DS games and things like that recently.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time looks amazing on the 3DS. Like, it looks so good.
I really hope that at some point the 3DS games have the equivalent of the Analog Pocket. I'd love to see it on a really high-resolution screen.
Oh, yeah, that would be really nice. I mean, come on, Nintendo, sort it out. Just give us an Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the Switch. Like, let's get this done.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that, like, third parties like Analog aren't going to be able to do that, I don't think, because... at least for a while, because Nintendo's still got an eShop going. I mean, the 3DS is still very much alive. I mean, you can buy those games in shops, and they're not, and you can buy a new 3DS, I suppose, too, if you want at this point. But it does seem like I was looking at like the new releases section of the eShop. That's pretty much a dead zone now. I mean, it's basically on the way out. But there are still plenty of those classic games. Like if you go to the Nintendo Select section, there are plenty of games you can still buy there for $30-$40. Plus all the Virtual Console stuff, which tends to be $10 and less. Which I had my dalliance with old Game Boy games, both the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color and all that. And the reality is, they're a lot nicer to play on the Virtual Console, only because the screen's so much nicer than one of those old systems. So I think in the long run, I'm more likely to... I may before that... I wonder how long it's going to be before that 3DS eShop just goes away. I do have this part of me that just wants to download $50 or $60 worth of those Virtual Console games, keep that 3DS in good shape, and just have it kind of like a sitting by the nightstand for a half an hour of gaming before I go to bed, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely I bought mine after the Switch came out. I bought that,
really?
And I picked I bought a 3DS, and I picked one of the new orange and white ones.
Those are really nice.
Whichever model that is. Is it a 2DS? I don't know. I don't know what type of thing it is.
Well, it's a 3DS that's maybe not 3D, because wasn't there one of those?
Yeah, I think that's what it... I mean, I wouldn't use a 3D anyway, because I've used a 3D, on somebody else's years ago, and it's not for me.
No, me either. I just turned off the 3D. I just cranked that all the way down.
But yeah, I picked one up after the Switch came out, and picked up a few games with it. I think it's got Mario Kart built in. I picked up Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, that kind of thing. Right. It's still a really nice console, and the batteries never run out. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really good that way, and the screen is pretty decent. It's a nice size. The thing, I like the way it feels holding it and playing with it more than the Switch really in handheld mode. I think having those Joy-Cons on the sides of the screen is a little awkward sometimes. And I kind of like that clamshell mode. I think that works really nice, because you can kind of tilt the screen depending on how you're sitting. You can kind of tilt it to the angle that's best for the way whether you're lying in bed or sitting in a chair or whatever it happens to be. So I don't know. I've enjoyed kind of playing around with it again, and I dug all that stuff out right before all this pandemic stuff hit, because I was going to collect a bunch of those old games off of eBay and then use them in the Analog Pocket. And then at the front end of that of the whole pandemic, it didn't feel like a good idea to have people sending me their old junk in the mail. So they're dirty old junk. So I stopped, and then I never got back to it. And I kind of decided that I really want to find I really want to find like a shop somewhere in the U.S. that sells refurbished old games, ones that are like kind of guaranteed to be good and to work, because eBay is such a roll of the dice when it comes to, the old Game Boy games that might have a dead battery in them or might be all corroded with the contacts. It's just a lot of those are really grubby old, not very good quality games that have passed through a lot of hands at this point. So I'd rather find, I'm sure somewhere out there's a shop that does that sort of thing. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to pay for it, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you talking about old games leads nicely into what I'm very excited about this week, which is
I know.
Which is the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remaster. This comes out Friday.
I've never played that game.
You've never played any of them?
I've never played any of them.
Wow.
That was like in the dead zone. The 90s were like, that was a 90s game, right? Yeah, the 90s are my
late 90s, I think, something like that.
Yeah. So kind of that period, late 80s to late 90s, were pretty. That whole decade was pretty dead to me. That's why I've never really played many Pokemon games until recently. So what is it about the remaster that's got you excited?
Well, so this is a remaster of 1 and 2, which came out on the PlayStation 1. And no matter what anybody tells you, there are no good games. There's no games that look good from the PlayStation. Like they all of them just look awful. The frame rate, the graphics, like these are not good at all. I mean, the PS2, I feel like the PS2 is as early as you can go back with 3D, and it's still kind of be okay. Which is exactly what I did actually. I pre-ordered this remaster, and then I went through and played Tony Hawk 3 and 4 on the PS2 for the last 2 weeks or something.
Oh, that's cool. I'm looking forward to it. I guess they got licensed all the original music, and they added a couple of songs. Maybe I read.
Yeah, it seems like they've got most of they've got the important songs that people care about. I think there's a few missing. But while I was doing this, you may have seen on Twitter this afternoon. So I was just looking around, reading Wikipedia, doing things, doing the things that you do when you just want to sort of research something or whatever. And I found out there's a game called Disney Extreme Skate Adventure, which uses the same engine as Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 from the PS2. And apparently it plays exactly the same. Like, it's a different game, but it plays exactly the same. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to go and buy a copy of this now and find out. So I've bought a copy on eBay this afternoon.
Yeah, I know. I saw you talking to Jake about it because Jake Underwood had played it, right?
Yeah. He said he'd played it, and I was like, okay, well, that's like a person that I actually know that has said they've played it. So I'm like, it's like a real human rather than just random people on the internet sort of telling me.
Right. No, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to the remaster. I'll probably get it at some point, but I'm kind of on game hold until late October, I think.
Yeah. So I got the email earlier that it's been dispatched. Now, it's not supposed to be here till Friday, but it's very possible that it could come tomorrow, which is very exciting because I like to get a game early. Last time that happened, I think, was Mario Odyssey. I managed to get that a day early, but it hasn't happened for a while.
Oh, that's nice. I don't know if I've ever gotten games early, but then again, I don't really buy very many physical games. I mostly download my games at this point. I have a good story about the post for you, Rob.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing that's happening.
It's a crossover between the U.S. Postal Service, the Italian Postal Service, and Pokemon, all rolled up in one.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's gaming related.
It's got all of it. Let's go for it.
Yeah. So there were some really nice posters, Pokemon posters that came out. It's been 7 weeks ago now, and they were only available for shipping in the United States. So Federico asked me to pick some up for him and mail them to him. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And so this was mid-July, and I picked them up. And these were not expensive posters. I think it was maybe $40 for the set of 3, and they're relatively small. And they came in kind of a biggish box. And instead of opening the box and repacking them in something smaller or whatever, I just left them in the box. I figured, I'm not going to mess with it. Don't want to damage them. I'll keep them in the box, and I'll just take the labels off the box, put on new labels, and take them down to FedEx or UPS or something and send them to them. And so I went down, and they're like, that'll be $200 and something. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
I was like, this is FedEx. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was like, is it because the box is so large? I mean, it wasn't huge, but it was definitely seemed big for what I was shipping. And I thought, well, I could probably get a different box or whatever. And like, no, it'd be basically the same if it were smaller too. I was like, oh, all right. So at that point, it's like, well, you know, having invested $40, you don't want to spend 200, 5 times that to ship them somewhere. So I went to the post office, and this is before all the hubbub, the political hubbub in the U.S. about the quality of our postal service. It's never been good, frankly, and if it's going downhill, we are going to be in trouble, because I remember this is a total tangent too, but when we first lived in Chicago, there were stories about the postal workers who they like to go drinking instead of delivering the mail, so they would put the bags of mail under an overpass on the highway and burn it. So that used to happen. That was a long time ago. That was in the 90s. But anyway, so I mailed it with, I just, sent it international mail. And there wasn't any particular way that I didn't send it like super fast. I figured, if it takes a week or two, it'd be fine. So the package went from my house in the suburbs to, I think, to downtown Chicago, and from downtown Chicago to the airport, and then from the airport to London, and from London to Milan. And then you'd think, oh, well, that must just be where all the mail comes in for Italy, and then it would be a short jump to Rome.
Sure.
No, it came all the way back to Chicago and sat there for like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And at this point, I've thought, well, one of two things has happened. It's been lost. I also didn't really trust the reporting of the whereabouts either too much, but I thought it's either been lost or they're sending it back to my house. Something was wrong. They're sending it all the way back. And so I was expecting it to come any day. And then all of a sudden I see, oh, it's in New York City. How about that? Sat in New York City for about 5 or 6 days, and today it landed in London again. So it's been across the Atlantic 3 times with $40 worth of posters.
Well, I mean, you're really getting your money's worth out of it.
I am. I don't remember how much I spent on shipping, but it was not 200 like FedEx wanted. It was probably like 40 or 50. It was somewhere in the realm of what the thing cost. It was relatively reasonable. But yeah, it's in London right now, and so I'm eagerly awaiting. So it's been like 6 weeks, approaching 7 weeks since I initially mailed this.
Wow.
I'm just wondering, is it going to end up in Milan again and then turn back around and round trip again? Or is it going to go direct to Rome, or what's going to happen? So,
there's been a few times where there's been some things like these Pokemon posters where it's like, oh, they only ship to the US. And I thought, oh, I could message John and get him to post them to me. And then I look up the prices for shipping.
Yeah.
At one point, I even looked, this was just comics. It was 2 comics. So like, you're talking an envelope. And it was still like $40 or $50 or something. And I was like, oh, okay, I might as well just pay the shipping that the person was going to charge me anyway. Like, it's
right.
I get it. It's coming across an ocean. But like, I think I was just a bit surprised at how expensive it was.
I really got a rude awakening to all this when we did our Mac Stories Selects Awards last year, and we had to ship out these awards. I forget how many we did. We did like 10, maybe 11, something like that, awards, and all but maybe 3 of them were international, and some were, one was to India, one was to New Zealand, Sweden, I think, Germany, I think the UK, a bunch of different places. And it was very interesting having sent them all at once by FedEx, one, to see how much it cost, which was just an ungodly amount of money, and then to see who got them first and which countries were slow. And it was interesting because France was one of the slowest, and you wouldn't really necessarily expect that, especially when other countries in the EU and UK and whatnot, got them significantly before. But I think part of it is, clearing customs and whatever bureaucracy has to happen when package arrives at the other end.
Yeah.
The biggest difficulty was India, because they wanted a big chunk of change to be paid in duties, and we ended up paying duties in India. No one else did that to us.
Yeah, I have heard it can be quite bad for just general bureaucracy, like whether you're visiting or all of that kind of stuff. But
that one took a very long time. That one took a good 6 weeks to get there, I think, in the end. But everything got delivered, which was good, but it was very slow. So we'll see. I've got experience now with international shipping, so I'll be doing that again. And this is where people wonder why, like when you sell like T-shirts and stuff, it's like, well, why is it so expensive to send it to Europe? And it's like, well, unless you have somebody manufacturing it in Europe, it's just going to be expensive, unfortunately. It's just like if you're in the U.S. and try to buy something that's only available in a country in the EU. It's the same thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's been loads of times where there's been stuff that I've just thought, you know what, I can't justify the cost of the shipping, and then I'm going to get customs charges on top of that. Right. I just end up sort of going, oh, forget it, I'm not going to buy these anymore.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of good, like if you're doing the selling, there's not a lot of good solutions to that unless the stuff is being manufactured or stored or warehoused in on the other continent. You're just going to run into that shipping no matter what. So
yeah, and especially for T-shirts. I mean, you've got Teespring, but then you have to use Teespring, and nobody wants that. So
right, and I know people have used that in the past and really regretted it because of the quality and the fact that like the shirts they used in Europe were different than the ones that were used in the United States. Yet the website showed all the same thing, and it just then people are unhappy and disappointed, and it's not good. That's why I'm glad I just mostly deal in digital bits. I don't have to I don't deal in real world goods very much. Though that could change. You never know.
Yeah. But yeah, I've got 3 identical ATP T-shirts here, but each one has a fault except the third one.
Yeah, they had a lot of trouble. I mean, the only reason we've never used that service is because we know so many people. Like, I know the Connected guys had issues. And
yes.
I think James Thompson had issues with PCalc at one point. Just a bunch of people I know have had issues with Teespring. So I did extensive research at one point on T-shirts, and it came to the conclusion that that Cotton Bureau really is the best of the choices out there. I mean, there are some aspects of it that aren't great, like the cost of shipping overseas, and just generally. Their shirts are kind of expensive before, they work on a model where you don't have to buy the shirts in advance. They just do, people sign up and then they just print to order. And depending on the number of shirts ordered, you have different costs per shirt. But the base price of the shirts is pretty high before anything is added to it. So a lot of those shirts that you buy, those tech shirts that you buy that are really expensive, the people selling them aren't making like a ton of money on them. They're maybe only making $3 or $4, maybe $5 per shirt at most. But you get the benefit of someone else having to deal with all the inventory and the shipping, all that stuff. You're not like, you don't have like Marco sending out ATP shirts from his kitchen table. which I think is a very funny sight to imagine, and I can't imagine him actually ever doing that. But
no, definitely
nobody
not.
wants to do that stuff, right?
No, definitely not. Cool. Well, that was a lot of games. Way more than I thought it was going to be.
Lots and lots of games.
Well, by the time we speak next time, I will have played Tony Hawk, so I guess I can give you my review if you want.
Oh, very nice.
I feel like calling it a review is a bit overselling it, but I'll tell you if I like it or not.
Yeah, that may be overselling it. I'll have to check that out at some point. I got to think about what I'm going to play next. I think I'm just going to be content playing my my existing games that I've got. I don't know that I'm going to branch out much more right now. Did you see that Animal Crossing, that Joe Biden has like lawn signs in Animal Crossing now?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, you should find these articles. I only mention it not because it's not like not in any political way, except that one of the benefits of Animal Crossing is an escape from the real world.
Oh, no.
I think that you shouldn't have to think about the pandemic or politics when you're in Animal Crossing, but I guess the Biden campaign has created in-game lawn signs that you can acquire somehow. I haven't looked into the details of this, but it did kind of make me think, maybe Animal Crossing, I'll play that after the U.S. election's over.
Oh, okay. It's not quite as bad as it seems. So this is the QR code thing where you can scan them and just add them. I don't know how the game works, but presumably anybody can make these. So it's
yeah.
Maybe the article's overselling it a little bit, but yeah, I don't. That's not the place for it, especially Animal Crossing. It's like a nice game. It's just, you can just sort of chill out. You don't want to have to think about other things.
Yeah, I thought that might be how it was done, because you can do that. You can go in and you can create your own stuff. I think you can even do it on like one of the 3DS game maybe, and create the QR codes there and import them into the game. I don't know. I mean, there are levels of deep dives into Animal Crossing places I've never gone in Animal Crossing, because there's enough meandering you can do in the game as it is without designing your own clothes and other things. Although I know a lot of people do that and enjoy it. I just kind of quit playing before I ever got to that level. I was enjoying it, but at one point it started feeling like a chore and like an appointment I had every day, where I had to go make sure I dealt with my turnips before they rotted and all that. It's like,
yeah.
And I was, and I was busy, and I was like, I don't need a second job. I don't need a job in Animal Crossing of combing the beach and selling my turnips. I've got enough to do as it is. I'm going to go play some other game. So that's kind of when I left Animal Crossing and started playing Pokemon again, and then Paper Mario. Which Paper Mario, if you really should play it, Rob. It's a good game.
Well, I've got Tony Hawk coming first, and then maybe after that.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. All right, I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.